Bro, Nikki Haley is like the inside terrorist, dude. I swear to God. She keeps cutting commentary for Joe Biden.
Allow me to.
The fuck? She literally.
Allow me to.
I'm sorry, I have to jump in because we're missing the point, and every other network is missing the point. The reason why people are striking in Detroit is because Joe Biden's interference with capital markets and with free markets. The subsidies, we're subsidizing the automakers, and we're subsidizing the cars, and a particular kind of car, not every car.
Is going to be on as well. I'm going to have him on in the first break once the debate starts. And then we can hear his commentary and analysis. We're not doing the sync shit. I'm just going to go. I'm going to YOLO dog it. I'm going to raw dog it. I'm going to go YOLO mode and show you the debate. Should be protected by fair use. You're walking for your mental health break. Top of the hour ad break is coming. The Biden administration wants you. Oh, my God. Why is Karl Rove not dead? Why? Why is he still alive? Fucking piece of shit.
People, as we've talked about, who can identify what the
3-minute ad
challenges
break
the
now.
American people are facing.
Fluffy, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
Describing where it came from and describing the answer that they have are the people I think that are going to come out ahead more than the people who pick a fight all the time and unnecessarily with the people on the stage.
Well, Harold Ford, Carl makes a good point. I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if Republicans actually attacked Joe Biden for a change instead of each other?
I told you. Oh, yeah. My faves are all on screen, dude. Every fucking lush and every dipshit dickhead on the Republican side, every demon is here. Kudlow is not drinking alcohol for this wonderful occasion. All right, let's see what...
Ron DeSantis, Lockdown University.
Vivek Ramaswamy, World Economic Forum Business School.
Nikki Haley, Bush War Crime Institute.
Tim Scott, Kissless Virgin U. Chris Christie, Golden Corral State.
Mike Pence, Mother's Closet.
Doug Burgum, why am I here?
Burgamania! Let's fucking go! Let's fucking go! Burgamania! I want my Burgamaniacs to stand up, dude! Let's fucking go! God damn it! Woo! The real burger head's got to rise up today. Burgum is coming back from that injury that he was resting after he dunked on an unsuspecting blood boy, okay? He's got some big-time bona fides coming in, okay? He's excited. He's a freak. He's got the Burgamaniacs on his side. He is bringing and putting North Dakota on the map. Not too much on the map, hopefully, because if he does put North Dakota on the map, people are going to be like, what the fuck? That's a real state? We should fucking make sure that both Dakotas are merged once again. Why is that a state on its own? So that's obviously a big problem for Doug Burgum in general. I just realized this is on delay, so we're going to have to wait a little bit longer until it actually comes up.
Okay.
Hello?
Am I on stream now?
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I got to raise your volume a little bit because your volume's very low. All right. Talk to me. Hello?
All right. Hey, everybody.
All right. What's up?
Is the debate on right now?
The debate hasn't started yet, which you, I hope, are going to also watch. I can send you a link to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just send me a link. I'll see it.
Okay. Here's the debate link.
Yeah, let's go.
Before we get started, how do I say your name?
Edinger Mentum. It's a hard G.
Okay. Edinger Mentum. Ladies and gentlemen, Edinger Mentum, building, one of Felix's buddies. You might know him from his Substack or the Chapo Trap House where he's made appearances.
Yeah, that's been great, yeah.
He told me what his name is, but I'm definitely going to keep forgetting, and I'm going to fuck it up. English is my second language, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm also on a walking treadmill. All right, so you're the election whisperer.
Yeah, I got one election right. But the thing is that I got one election right, but I'm the only person who follows elections who isn't an annoying ass liberal. So
that is also kind of true. Yes, there's one other guy that I've had on before as well. But most of the people who are involved in election tracking are unfortunately incredibly petulant libs who end up revealing their true position that Medicare for all is actually bad and blah blah blah.
Yeah, they don't have the power of historical materialism and political analysis. That's how I get everything right.
I don't believe that, but okay.
No, it's true.
All right.
The
Well,
was historically materialist. That was Marxism.
okay. Well, regardless, tonight's debate is going to be hosted at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley, one of the worst places in California, in a sea of contenders. It's like the most cop haven area that you could possibly be in the entire state. And I don't know. We got a lot of contenders. When this starts, when the speaking starts, we'll stop talking and we'll actually watch, and then we'll continue talking during the breaks. But before we get started, what are your expectations from tonight? I don't know if you've been watching the Donald Trump conversation.
Oh, his
in
thing
Michigan.
where he was doing like a thing at the National Right to Work Committee organized event, like in some place in Michigan.
Yeah. He's at Drake Facilities, which is a non-union shop.
Drake? Drake is hosting him?
Yeah, Drake, Drizzy Drake, the rapper.
Damn, wow, I can't believe he did that.
Yeah. So he's doing that right now. And the debate is about to start. What are your expectations from tonight? Whose performance are you most excited to see?
Yeah, well, I want to see if Vivek can kind of because Vivek's performance during the first debate was one of the most hotly debated of all of the contenders. Everybody was excited to see him. And everybody thought he did well, but his numbers have actually gone down quite a bit. He's went from polling at 6% to polling at 3%. So it may be like a flop error for Vivek. His edgers, it's very bad news for his edgers on TikTok. And Haley actually went up a lot after the past debate. So, Vivek has got to kind of turn the ship around. DeSantis is I think it's kind of a lost cause for him. I did a lot of background research into his life. He's basically kind of a born loser. But the rest of it is it's interesting to keep track of for who could be a Trump vice president pick, which I think Vivek was kind of running for. Haley is running for, and I think that's going to be the main battle of the night, I think.
The Desis are rising up, finally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the Desi fifth column infiltration is finally complete.
Yeah.
Just like the Turks did in the UK. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna unmute it now, and we're gonna go into the debate because it's starting now. But we'll hear from you in the next break.
Flanking the governor, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Next is South Carolina Senator Tim Scott and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
On the wing tonight, former Vice President Mike Pence and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
We have questions on a wide variety of issues important to primary voters. Candidates get 1 minute to answer and 30 seconds to respond if singled out. When their time runs out, we'll all hear this. We have a lot of ground to cover, so please keep it civilized.
Let's get going.
I can't believe they had the audacity to bring a British man.
Place tonight designed to reflect the very nature
and
character of Ronald Reagan.
Fox Business
Makes you proud to be an American.
Come on.
Yet today our nation is drowning in division and incivility.
Voters say they dread the 2024 election and find politics exhausting. 2 in 3 Americans think the country is on the wrong track. And 3 in 4 say the economy is not in good shape.
Prices are up 18% since 2020. More than half of the U.S. population has little access to childcare. 85% of Americans say their personal finances are a source of stress.
Who's going to kill more babies?
A leader who says, you can
Which one of you will kill the most American children?
President Biden is trying to do that with Bidenomics.
And yesterday, he joined the picket lines where auto workers are demanding.
I hate that they're doing this triple thing. It's very weird. I don't like it. It's weirding me out.
You recently reacted by praising Ronald Reagan for firing air traffic controllers in the 1980s, saying, "You strike, you're fired." Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector.
It's illegal.
However,
what he's describing
we should
is
look
illegal.
back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work week. But more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I sat in a finance committee hearing when a widow came before the committee who was promised pensions from the unions, $4,000 a month. Unfortunately, it had been cut to $1,000 a month. We must make sure that we honor the commitments that we make, and one of the ways that we do that, do not overpromise and then underdeliver and leave the taxpayers on the hook. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border working to close our southern border because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It is devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans in every single state. I will also say 6 million illegal crossings since Joe Biden has taken office, and he eliminated Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done.
Damn.
Well, I can promise you that we are going to have a lot of questions on the border and immigration. But in the meantime, we do want to talk about the economy and jobs, and especially want to talk about this strike for just a moment more. Mr. Ramaswamy, you've said you really empathize with the strikers. You're standing next to Senator Scott.
Chat,
do you
agree
with what he said, or do you think he's wrong?
I agree with some of what he said.
We're doing it here.
Sure.
We're doing the damn thing.
I'll say that I don't have a lot of patience for the union bosses. I think that's where he and I actually have a common view. I do have a lot of sympathy for the workers, however. People are going through real hardship in this country. I've been through hardship growing up. My father stared down layoffs at GE under Jack Welch's tenure at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom had to work overtime in nursing homes in Southwest Ohio to make ends meet and pay off our home loan. So I understand that hardship is not a choice. But victimhood is a choice, and we choose to be victorious in the United States of America. You know what, if I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's really where the protest needs to be. Disastrous economic policies that have driven up prices, that have driven up interest rates and mortgage rates, at the same time wages remaining stagnant. What we need is to deliver economic growth in this country.
He's too much of a debate nerd.
Energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy, put people back to work by no longer paying them more money to stay at home, stabilize the U.S. dollar itself, and rescind a majority of those unconstitutional federal regulations that are hampering our economy. That is how we unleash American exceptionalism. And that's not a Democratic vision or a Republican vision. That is an American vision that we embrace economic growth, and capitalism is still the best system known to man to lift us up from poverty, and we should not apologize for it. That's what it means to be an American.
Together, the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis make 336 times the number of rank-and-file workers. That's just part of a wider income inequality trend in the country. The richest 1% now controls 1/5 of all income. Vice President Pence, last week you said you side with American workers, but you also support how these companies operate. Which is it?
Well, thank you for the question. I want to thank Univision and Fox Business for assembling such a wonderful forum. Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line.
Nice, dude.
Look, I'm from the second leading manufacturing
Comedy is
state
illegal in
the
evangelical
country per
Christianity,
capita.
I think.
I was governor of the state of Indiana.
Good one.
We brought 12,000 factories back.
He looks
to
way more
America
dead
during our
today, maybe because he's not next to
something about
Asa
manufacturing.
Hutchinson.
And I got to tell you, while the union bosses are talking about class warfare and talking about disparity in wages, I have to tell you, I really believe what's driving that is Bidenomics has failed. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. Auto workers and all American workers are feeling it, and families are struggling in this economy. And Joe Biden's Green New Deal agenda is good for Beijing and bad for Detroit. We ought to repeal the Green New Deal, get rid of the mandates and subsidies that are driving American gasoline, automotive manufacturing into the graveyard. And beyond that, also, as President of the United States, I'll be standing with workers all across America, and I'll be standing for the right to work of every American to join a union or not.
We got to repeal Green New Deal
as they
He's right.
decide.
Senator Scott, you were mentioned. Will you
Which
care to respond?
certainly exists.
There's no doubt that Joe Biden needs to be fired. That's why I'm running for president. I look forward to being the next president of the United States. I will also say, I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me. It's why we're focusing on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting the America we all love. Growing up in a single-parent household, I wondered if the American dream would work for a kid in the inner city. I've got good news for every single child, whether you're in the inner cities of Chicago or the rural parts of Iowa. America and the dream, it is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. God bless these United States of America.
Inner city Chicago, watching the Republican primary debates.
I think we need to look
and
at
being
exactly
influenced
what
by Tim
happened.
Scott.
Biden showed up on that picket line, but why are those workers actually there? It's because of all of the spending that he has pushed through in the economy that's raised the inflation. So when you look at the fact that we are paying higher gas prices, higher grocery prices, $7,000 more a year for families, what we need to do is I came out with an economic plan, eliminate the gas and diesel tax so that they have more money in their pocket. Let's focus on going after middle America and cutting taxes for middle America and collapsing those brackets. Let's get rid of unfair distortions like the state and local tax that they give to wealthy people in blue states and not paid by red states. And let's make sure we make the small business taxes permanent. They only made those temporary. They made the corporate taxes permanent. Let's focus on what it takes to get more cash in the pockets of workers.
Bro, Nikki Haley is like the inside terrorist, dude. I swear to God. She keeps cutting commentary for Joe Biden.
Allow me to.
The fuck? She literally.
Allow me to.
I'm sorry, I have to jump in because we're missing the point, and every other network is missing the point. The reason why people are striking in Detroit is because Joe Biden's interference with capital markets and with free markets. The subsidies, we're subsidizing the automakers and we're subsidizing the cars, and a particular kind of car, not every car. We're subsidizing electric vehicles. And when you decide that we're going to take all of your taxpayer monies, take $1 billion, subsidize a certain type of vehicle, and the batteries come from China. China controls 85% of the rare earth minerals because they're measured in parts per million. China is moving 100,000
Okay, maybe a little too nerdy. Dial it back. You're sexy. Dial it back.
They're literally destroying the planet so that they can make a battery that's in a car subsidized here. That's why they're striking, because they need 2/3 less workers to build an electric car. Joe Biden, this strike is at Joe Biden's feet.
Popped off.
We're going to keep the topic of economy, but allow me to the follow question to Governor Christie. The government will shut down if Congress does not reach a deal by the end of this week.
God.
Vice President Pence warns that politics of, quote, Trump populist proteges like Mr. Ramaswamy are a road to ruin for the GOP. If the government shuts down, should voters blame populist Republicans?
Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C. They get sent down there to do the job, and they've been failing at doing the job for a very long time. And let's be honest about this with the voters. You know, during the Trump administration, they added $7 trillion in national debt. And now the Biden administration has put another $5 trillion on and counting. They have failed, and they're in the spot they're in now because none of them are willing to tell the truth. None of them are willing to take on the difficult issues. They just want to keep kicking the can down the road. And the inflation that Nikki spoke about is absolutely right, and it's caused by government spending. And that's why people all across this country are suffering tonight. And yet we don't get any answers.
Let's go.
Because
It's
Joe
national
Biden
debt
hides
times. These are
in his basement.
great.
And won't
Typical
answer as to
Republican
why
talking
he's
points to
raising the debt
hammer
the way
home,
he's
baby.
done. And Donald Trump
Everybody
hides
loves
behind
this
the
shit.
walls
In the
of
post-Trump
his golf
world,
clubs
nobody gives
and
a
won't
fuck.
show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk about who are suffering. And if the government,
he's coming for New Hampshire, baby. He's gunning for that second spot. He's going to get 12% of the vote in New Hampshire, and then it's the Christie train.
DC, who has failed to do their job and just plays to the grandstand.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis.
If we want to get things done, here's how we get it done in Washington. We must find a way.
Can we please respect the time?
What the fuck's happening?
Governor
Chaos.
DeSantis, you haven't spoken, please.
The people in Washington are shutting down the American dream with their reckless behavior. They borrowed, they printed, they spent, and now you're paying more.
Boring. You're
for
boring the
everything.
hose.
They are the reason for that.
Boring,
They
Ron.
have shut down our national sovereignty by allowing our border to be wide open. So please spare me the crocodile tears for these people. They need to change what's going on. And where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now. I can tell you this, as governor of Florida, we cut taxes, we ran surpluses, we've paid down over 25% of our state debt, and I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
Ilya, you mentioned me in your question. I just want to address
I'm going to go to Senator Scott, but I have a question that is on the minds of a lot of moms and dads and Americans, and I know that you've been thinking about it because child care costs, they are up. They're topping $10,000 per month. Some families are spending up to half of their income on child care, and they're having to decide, is it worth it for me to work, or does it not make sense for me financially? In 3 days, the billions of dollars in pandemic-era funding is going to end.
Why are they asking the fucking virgin, dog? What the fuck does he know about child care? He's literally a kissless virgin.
Broaden eligibility for child care assistance. That fell apart
Sickening.
last year.
Asking the virgin about child
The
care.
moms and dads out there who are worried, what can you tell them if you weren't able to get it through the Congress? How could you do it as president?
Certainly one of the things I did as a member of Congress was to make sure that we protected the Head Start programs around the country, giving people the opportunity to pick and choose the place that they send their children. The challenges that we see today under the Biden administration is that the cost for daycare has gone over $15,000 per child. In the Build Back Broker plan, he called it a Build Back Better plan, it was going up to $29,000. The way we fix that problem is to make sure that we actually cut taxes and give more Americans their money back. When I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we actually lowered a single
We're just gonna cut taxes. Fuck it. There's no reason. There's no reason to fund anything in the child care upfront.
Then we
just
went
cut
a step
taxes
further. We doubled the child tax credit and made it refundable. By doing that, more parents had more resources to make the decisions how to take care of their family. The one thing we should do is let the American people keep their money. When that happens, the greatest opportunities rise from the ashes.
I need to jump in 15 seconds. Go ahead, and then we're going to the border.
Ilya
Tim Scott's
part of my
opinion
view.
on this is awfully close to just, Sigma grind set bootstrap.
The divide is not between the Republicans on
Make
this
them grind
stage. In the
harder.
Reagan Library,
Fuck it,
I wanna
we
say
ball.
These are good people on this stage. The real divide is between the majority of us in this country who love the United States of America and share our founding ideals. Free speech, meritocracy, the idea you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character, and the fringe minority in the Democrat Party that has a chokehold over that party. That's the real divide. So this populist versus classical debate is artificial. We need to unite this party.
I want to answer the question on child care. We have
I think we're going to go on. You have to.
It's pretty funny that Doug Burgum has probably never met like a Latino person, I think. And like every single time she speaks, he just cuts her off. He's like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, is this a different language? Like, I'm just going to keep speaking over you.
We passed legislation because child care
we will get you some questions, but you're going to have to let us move on. We are going to the border next.
Sorry, I had to Doug. You know what I mean? Like, I had to mute him a little bit.
President Ronald Reagan said the following.
The idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
2 years later, President Reagan granted amnesty to nearly 3 million immigrants, something no Democrat or Republican president has done since. Governor Christie, as governor of a non-border state in 2010, you supported a path to citizenship. But when you ran for president in 2016, you flipped, saying immigrants should be tracked like FedEx packages. Where do you stand now on a path to citizenship
Oh my
for
God!
11 million of undocumented immigrants?
The problem is that since no one has done anything since we first had this discussion,
dude, I didn't even know that.
Ago, we're not in a position to be able to do any of that anymore. What we have to do now is first treat this like the law enforcement problem it is. Our laws are being broken every day at the southern border, every day. And Joe Biden and his crew is doing nothing.
That is going to be the greatest polling that Chris Christie has ever, by the way, received.
Race, they were going to let it go. And we need to have a president who acts like I did as governor, enforce the law. First and foremost. And that means what I'll do on day one is sign an executive order to send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol to make sure that we stop the flow of fentanyl over the border, but also to make sure that we send a much different message. We want you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have, but only if you come here to follow the law and only if you come here legally. If you come here illegally, we will apprehend you and we will send you back across the border from which you came. And the fact is that until we set a law and order agenda in this country, not only now but in the future, we won't be able to continue this. And I'll tell you this. Donald Trump failed on this as well. He said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it. Guess what? I think if Mexico knew that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, Governor Haley.
Bro, that's so crazy.
Most
I can't believe
immigrants
Chris
are coming
Christie said the FedEx thing. That looks really good for him in the Republican primary for the first time ever, by the way.
Coming into the country on a daily basis. In fact, I believe we have a live picture of it tonight. That is happening right now, live. In the last decade, the U.S. has spent nearly $55 billion to address the root causes of migration. But crime, poverty, and corruption, they persist, and the number of migrants is only growing. Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And now we've seen 6 million people cross the border.
I love that they're doing this at the Ronald Reagan Library with the context of Ronald Reagan's amnesty program that they're shitting on right now.
We need to make sure that we are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. So we have to secure the border. The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. You see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. It's got to stop. We need to make sure we put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job. Let's go back to remain in Mexico policy. Instead of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport.
What about what about the aid that federal taxpayers are paying to deal with the root causes? It's not working?
The only aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period.
You would cut
we
off
need
aid
to
to the
keep
region?
Americans safe, and right now Americans are not safe. Only when we fix the immigration system, only when we get the border secure, should we ever look at putting any more money into this. Our money should be about keeping Americans safe. We're not doing that. Joe Biden's not doing that. And you mentioned Congress and shutting down government. I'll make it clear. We have to change the budget process. In 4 years, in 40 years, Congress has only delivered a budget on time 4 times in 40 years. If they don't keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way we should.
Governor DeSantis, we have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, China invested $12 billion in Latin America just last year. They signed strategic partnerships with 7 countries, including Mexico. And China's military ties to the region now include arms sales and training exercises. Are you comfortable with China deepening ties with our southern neighbors?
Of course not. And the reason why we're in this mess is because elites in D.C. for far too long have chosen surrender over strength when it comes to the CCP. Some people in our country got rich, our industrial base got hollowed out, and they have been able to build the second most powerful military in the entire world. We need
How'd they do that, Ron?
approach to China. We are going to have real hard power in the Indo-Pacific, like Reagan, to deter their ambitions. We're going to have economic independence from China, where we're decoupling our economy, and we are going to go after the cultural power they have in this country. As governor of Florida,
So what happens? Do the liberals hear this and go, "Oh my God, I'm so horny. I might vote for Ron
all
DeSantis"?
across these United States. We shouldn't have them in our universities. We shouldn't have Confucius institutes.
Wait, what?
So you see a country in decline. Our power's in decline. China's going to surpass us this decade, and if they do that, that's going to affect every single American household. As your president, I am not going to let that happen. I'm going to reverse this country's decline. We are going to choose strength, not surrender, when it comes to the CCP.
Did you just say we're banning the Chinese from our universities?
Universal deportation for all undocumented immigrants and their children, even if the children are citizens of the United States. Under what legal premise will you expel U.S. citizens?
So the first thing I want to say is I agree with everything. The Republicans on the stage are on the right side of this issue. Militarize the southern border, stop funding sanctuary cities, and end foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl.
Dog, you're brown. What the fuck?
The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States.
Bro, you are not a part of the team, dog. You are not a part of the team. The people that want to do that want you out too.
The kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree.
Boys, I'm losing it. I'm losing my citizenship. If Ramaswamy becomes president,
then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. And as the father of two sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you have to follow the law when our own government fails to follow its own laws. That's how we really go the distance and solve this problem and restore the rule of law in the United States of America, because that is part of what it even means to be an American.
Senator Scott, you oppose ending birthright citizenship. What does Mr. Ramaswamy have wrong on that issue?
Yeah, there's no doubt the fact that when you think of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, it was certainly written as it relates to slavery, not as it relates to illegal immigration. It's been applied to illegal immigration. So the challenge that we face is, in fact, one that has to do with whether or not the people that come here are under the jurisdiction of our laws. And frankly, if you come here illegally, you are not. Now,
dude, every debate devolves into who's going to murder more immigrants. It's crazy to me.
Of the Constitution, I think it's simple that clearly it was designed for
He's like, they have no laws. Like you're not supposed to be protected under our laws, which they are.
When we have a conversation about
undocumented migrants, asylum seekers are absolutely protected under the law, for the record. It is the law to protect them.
And I appreciate that, because last
they have rights. Everyone has rights.
Bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. It's not nonsense.
So look, here's what I want to respond. These are good people who are tainted by a broken system, and it's not the fault of anybody who's involved.
Some of us are tainted.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
Well, you said bottom paper.
If I may finish.
You can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges we should have
please focus on the issues that matter. We know we did business in China. Everybody knows that.
If I may address,
focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be focusing on.
I actually agree with Ron DeSantis.
Everybody speaks at the same time. No one can understand.
Exactly.
Ooh,
so
boo, Vivek, you're gonna get dumb
on China. When every other CEO
I agree with Ron
the Chinese
DeSantis,
market,
loser.
you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company...
Oh, never mind. He just did it for a little bit. Never mind.
Right when when I started my next company, Strive, to compete against BlackRock, excuse me, to compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
Yes. I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was interrupted by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe these are good people, but I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you would
in honor of Ronald Reagan's library, if I may. From one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another. From one admirer of Reagan to another, we cannot see violate Reagan's 11th commandment.
I want to hear about.
Bro, this is so.
Understand what's going on.
Let us have a policy debate.
Let's have about their records.
Let's have a policy debate. And the right answer is we need to declare independence from China, and I will see that through.
Vice President Pence, in 2017, the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status of 600,000 dreamers in the hands of the courts. Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court ends DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution for dreamers?
Well, first, let me say I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So,
okay, Pence.
So, let me speak.
Damn, they didn't even hit in that audience. These guys don't appreciate good commentary.
I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy with the Mexican government. We used economic power to bring the Mexican government to the table. We built hundreds of miles of border wall. And despite what's said here today, we reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. And as president,
to be fair, that doesn't really matter. Most Trump hogs don't care.
The truth is, we need to fix a broken immigration system, and I'll do that as well. But first and foremost, a nation without borders is not a nation. And we have to secure the southern border of the United States of America. I know how to do it, and we will do it again. Let me say one other thing about China. Let me say one other thing about China.
Would you negotiate with Congress to give a solution to the problem that dreamers have right now? They are on a limbo.
Well, let me tell you, I served in Congress for 12 years, although it seemed longer. But, you know, something I've done different than everybody on this stage is I've actually secured reform in Congress. You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending, but you've increased spending in Florida by 30%. When I was a member of Congress in 2006, right after Hurricane Katrina, Dana, you remember it, we stood our ground. I led House conservatives. We cut $100 billion out of the federal budget. It can be done, but as I said in the last debate, I'll say again, this is no time for on-the-job training. I'm going to be ready on day one to get Congress to step up, secure the southern border of the United States, build a military fitted to our times, and we're going to get spending in Washington, D.C. under control once and for all.
On the other side of this break, and I propose to go to a break. How will these candidates make America safer as rising crime plagues our cities? Debate night continues in moments.
Yo, are you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right. So, what do you? How do you feel about that? I mean, right off the bat, I mean, as a burger maniac, I do feel like you didn't get a lot of speaking time at all. Like
he looked fantastic. He looked as fantastic as usual. He looked like sexy Brezhnev. It was like really everything all the Burgomaniacs want.
Yeah, America needs like a sexy president with bushy eyebrows. Like that shit needs to come back.
And he should be president for like 40 years, and then we should fall apart. We need to have a Brezhnev. I would go so hard for him. I'd be part of his KGB.
Yeah. He's gonna unite the Dakotas. Okay, so everyone's performance is I mean, I don't know. They're definitely it's bad, but they definitely dialed back.
Yeah, all the planned Vivek pot shots, that was kind of sad.
Yeah. Mike, it's always fun to see Mike Pence try to get in on the action because despite being a radio guy, he is the least charismatic person alive.
He wasn't getting shit from them. They didn't like anything he was saying. They thought the audience did not give a fuck.
Which is wild because like they presented this as like at least the Republican strategists that I was listening to presented this as like a much more sane debate in comparison to the former the previous Fox News one. So that's like supposed to be Mike Pence's crowd, and no claps for that kind of thing. I mean, they're going to eat up whatever Nikki Haley puts down, it seems. Oh, the thing that, before we got started, the thing that I wanted to say was that I think that Vivek is really fucking nerdy. Like, he's a debate guy in the worst ways possible. And I think that that does not translate too well to a broader audience. Like, at first I thought he's saying all the right talking points and he's like glazing up Donald Trump. And I think he's going to see some benefits out of that. But like, the more he talks, he has like a Ron DeSantis style negative appeal.
Yeah. The more people see him, especially in the Republican Party, because it's so like, there's like no college-educated voters left in the party now. If he was like a Democrat and he was doing his shtick as a Democrat in a primary like this, I think he'd probably do better because all the nerds are Democrats now. But like Republicans now, the hogs, they don't want to hear that shit. They don't want like Model UN, like super delegate, like going crazy like that. They don't want it.
Yeah. And I think it completely loses the essence of why Trump is successful, because he doesn't do that like petty debate shit. Like, he doesn't do that at all.
He had so many great moments in 2016. He called Rand Paul ugly. He said he was going to fall off the stage. He just insulted people. It was
exactly.
It was fun. It was like fun.
He's charismatic. Whereas Vivek is like, actually, you're wrong. You know what I mean? This is what we're gonna do. Like, even when he's advocating for like borderline, I mean, definitely unconstitutional, borderline fascist policies. Like, he's doing it in such a fucking nerdy way. Like, he's Indian Blake Masters was my assessment originally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Blake Masters had more serial killer vibes. I think he wasn't even really a nerd. He just is just like an evil essence. There's a lot of like really funny stories like during the midterm where like they'd show like Blake Masters to focus groups and they'd all like kill themselves, and like all the all the Republican like pollster like fundraising people say we have to like completely cut bait. We can't give him any money. But Vivek is like. When you do the thing like you're saying, we're to deport all the legal immigrants, you need to talk about how you're going to get rid of everybody. You don't talk about how, it's actually legal under the 14th Amendment. They don't care about that. They don't even know what that is. Like, you're not talking to the right audience here.
Yeah, which, speaking of never talking to the right audience, Chris Christie seemingly is like running for the Democratic primaries for the most part until this quote came out. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I got it. All right, let's get back into it.
And welcome back to the Reagan Library for the second Republican presidential debate. I do want to just remind everyone, there's 1 minute for questions, 3 seconds for a follow-up, and the more you mention each other, that means the fewer questions you're going to get. Okay, so we want to talk about crime. This has been a horrendous problem in our country. Fox News and others have been covering it. Governor Christie, crime in major cities is striking fear into the hearts of Americans. Just last night, looters took over the streets of Philadelphia. You said in the last debate that you would use U.S. attorneys to prosecute crimes local prosecutors won't. But they are stretched as well, and they could not handle all of the lawlessness, the shoplifting, all the carjackings, the armed robberies. They're all surging. Progressive prosecutors were elected by their constituents, and they can't be fired by a president.
No idea what happened.
What would you do to end the revolving door
Literally
of
have no
criminality?
idea what happened.
Well, look, Dana, I'm the only one on this stage who's done it. For 7 years, I ran the 5th largest office in this country at the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey, and we set records for the number of prosecutions that we brought that still have not been broken. And the reason was that we went after the crime that was affecting people's lives. And as president, I will appoint an attorney general and instruct that attorney general that you are to put all the resources that are necessary to bring our cities back under control. The fact is, they will be stretched. There's no doubt about that, but that's what they take the job for, because they love the idea of enforcing the law. We've got to bring law and order back to this country, and not just in our cities. But we need law and order back everywhere. We need law and order back in our suburbs. People are threatened there. We need it in our rural areas. People feel threatened there. And we need it in Washington, D.C. also. And Donald Trump should be here to answer for that, but he's not. And I want to look at that camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here
No, he's
tonight,
not. He's literally talking.
Not because of polls and
He's
not
live.
because of your indictments. You're not here
Let it go,
tonight
little bro.
because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
All right.
Oh, no.
You fired a couple of prosecutors in your state, but as as president, you would not have the ability to do that. How do you think about dealing with the root causes of crime, especially this revolving door of the criminals that just get out and come back and commit another crime?
Well, the crime in these cities is one of the strongest signs of the decaying of America. We can't be successful as a country if people aren't even safe to live in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Just being in Southern California over the last couple of days, my wife and I have met 3 people who have been mugged on the street, and that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago.
Bro, he's always
in
meeting
Florida,
people.
We back the blue. We support the men and women of law enforcement. They are keeping us safe. We have a 50-year low.
He's always
in the
meeting
crime
people
rate.
that
and
conveniently.
Yes, when I had 2 progressive prosecutors that weren't following the law in Florida, I removed them from their posts, and the people of Florida are safer as a result of it. As president, I will use the Justice Department to bring civil rights cases against all of those left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors. We're not going to let them get away with it anymore. We want to reverse this country's decline. We need to choose law and order over rioting and disorder.
On a related subject, Governor Haley, there's a nationwide policing shortage. Retirements are up. Recruitment is in the tank. Morale is at a record low. 3 years ago, you signed a pledge to support law enforcement. Now, pledges are a nice idea, but what's your actual plan to get more police on our streets?
Well, and I actually did it in South Carolina, too. You know, what we knew in South Carolina was you take care of those who take care of you. We have to start taking care of law enforcement, but it's not just taking care of them with words. It's making sure that you also follow through on what they do. Right now, we have a lot of stolen guns on the street. Well, these law enforcement officers, they arrest these people, and then they go and they're let out the very next day. So law enforcement feels like no one has their back. We have to start prosecuting according to the law. We have to make sure we have the backs of law enforcement, and we have to make sure that we're a country of law and order. But I want to go back to China because I don't think we spent enough time on that. Right now, we have to look at what government's doing to hurt us against China, too. You have a company, U.S. Antibiotics, that produces amoxicillin, the #1 antibiotic that we need. And right now, there is a company in Bristol, Tennessee, that produces that. Yet our federal government only gets it from China. We need to be focusing on companies that produce in America and supporting those companies that produce in America, not companies that are helping China.
Governor, we will be talking foreign policy later. Ilya?
Yes, thank you, Stuart. We're going to stay in the topic of crime because it affects all of us. Governor Burgum, for the first time ever, a Univision poll found that mass shootings and gun safety are one of the most important issues for Latino voters.
Bro, she's like...
Mental health concerns are not unique to the United States.
She's like the insider there.
But gun violence is. What is your specific plan to curb gun violence?
Well, first we need to know is understand is I think that the liberal left seems to be just completely bent on prosecuting law-abiding citizens that are gun owners, because every solution they have to this is take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But all these cities that we're talking about that you showed the videos of tonight, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So we know that that's not what's working. But what we have to do is get back to the core issues about the family. We have to get back to behavioral health and mental health. We've got to get back to actually enforcing the laws these people talked about, and like we've done in North Dakota, where we've got the goal and we're on the track to be the most military-friendly state in the nation. We've got the most military and the most support of what we're doing in terms of law enforcement, because the morale is down because we've been defunding the police, because they've been attacked in the press. The police have become the bad guys when they're the one. There's all these jobs available in America. Why would you be a policeman if people don't even respect them? Every time I see a policeman, the first thing I say is thank you, and so does everybody else in my family and most of the people in our state, because they know we have to respect the people
he's doing the
that are defending us every single day.
Can I answer the question on mass shootings?
Mr. Ramaswamy,
he said every time I see one, I suck them real hard.
90%
suck the soul out of their dick.
Is seized at official border crossings, and 57% of the smugglers are U.S. citizens. How would you stop fentanyl brought into the country, mostly by U.S. citizens, through ports of entry?
Damn,
There's two sides
Univision
to this,
is
and we have to
woke,
be very
dude.
honest about it. One is we do have to seal that southern border. Building the wall is not enough. They're building cartel-financed tunnels underneath that wall. Semi-trucks can drive through them. We have to use our own military to seal the Swiss cheese of a southern border. But we also have to be honest. There's a demand-side problem in this country, too, a mental health epidemic. I met family
Kill
in
the
Iowa.
drug
Two
consumers.
parents, Kathy and Derek.
Faster.
They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. But it's also our job to make sure that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pumping pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches that restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans. Many of them are getting it through social media. And this isn't a Republican point or a Democrat point, but if you're 16 years old or under, you should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11. And I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem to
He said he's banning Snapchat and TikTok, which I'm on board with. Which is weird because he has a TikTok account.
Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels. They are killing our people. And the stories that I've seen in Florida, we had an infant, 18 months. Parents rented an Airbnb. And apparently the people that had rented it before were using drugs. The infant was crawling, the toddler was crawling on the carpet and ingested fentanyl residue and died. Are we just going to sit here and let this happen, this carnage happen in our country? I am not going to do that. So I guarantee you on day one, this border is going to be a day one issue for me as president. We're going to declare it a national emergency. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorist organizations that they are.
President Pence. All right, Vice President Pence. We're going to move on to a different issue. Hold on, sir. Vice President Pence.
$5 billion.
Just last month,
Why
Vice
does
President
Ron DeSantis needs to stay away from baby-related personal anecdotes? He just comes across like such a weirdo every time.
also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years, and you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare, right now, it is more
that baby
popular
was a cop.
than ever.
As a cop,
Why
baby.
should Americans trust you if you become president to fix that, or is Obamacare here to stay?
Well, first, let me speak to the mass shootings issue, and then I'll answer that question. It's an important one, Dana. Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied. And as a father of three, as a grandfather of three beautiful little girls, I am sick and tired of these mass shootings happening in the United States of America. And if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to go to the Congress of the United States, and we're going to pass a federal expedited death penalty for anyone involved in a mass shooting so that they will meet their fate in months, not years.
This is so stupid because mass shooters already killed themselves, stupid. It's not like they're doing it to get away with it like a crime of thrill.
The rest of his life behind bars in Florida.
He's like, we're going to shoot mass shooters extra hard.
Justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars. You're going to meet justice in this system.
But does that mean Obamacare is here to stay?
Well, thank you for reiterating the question, because I'd love to answer it. Look, I think it's one of the choices here. You know, my former running mate, Donald Trump, actually has a plan to start to consolidate more power in Washington, D.C., consolidate more power in the executive branch. If I'm president of the United States, it's my intention to make the federal government smaller by returning to the states those resources and programs that are rightfully theirs under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That means all Obamacare funding, all housing funding, all HHS funding, all of it goes back to the states. We'll shut down the Federal Department of Education. Will allow states to innovate. We're going to revive federalism in America, and states are going to help bring America back.
But Stu, go ahead.
May I remind everyone to keep within their time frame so that we can get as many questions in as possible. This question for Governor DeSantis. Over 26 million Americans don't have insurance coverage. Governor DeSantis, 2.5 million of them are in your state. That's worse than the national average. Can Americans trust you on this?
Well, I think this is a symptom of our overall economic decline. Everything has gotten more expensive. You see insurance rates are going through the roof. People that are going to get groceries. I spoke with a woman in Iowa, and she said, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm having to take things out of my grocery cart when I get to the checkout line because the total goes up so quickly. So this is very real, and people are hurting out there. So we've got to address the underlying problem with Bidenomics, the overspending, taking all Biden's rules and regulations. I'm going to throw them in the trash can on day one. You're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to open up all of our energy. We will be energy dominant in this country. That will lower your gas prices. And what we need to do with healthcare is recognize our healthcare is putting patients at the back of the bus.
I feel like the ratings on this is going to be so
big
bad.
Insurance and big government, and we need to tackle that and have more power for the people and the doctor-patient relationship.
I feel like ratings on this debate is going to be way worse, dude.
Worse than the national average.
Our state's a dynamic state. We've got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a population boom. We also don't have a lot of welfare benefits in Florida. You know, we're basically saying this is a field of dreams. You can do well in the state, but we're not going to be like California and have massive numbers of people on government programs without work requirements. We believe you work and you got to do that. And so that goes for all the welfare benefits. And you know what that's done, Stuart? Our unemployment rate is the lowest amongst any big state. We have the highest GDP growth amongst any big state. And even CNBC, no fan of mine, ranked Florida the #1 economy in America.
We're moving on. On the topic of healthcare, Governor Haley, healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy for American families, accounting for 2/3 of all personal bankruptcies. As president, how you protect Americans who get sick from financial ruin?
First of all, how can we be the best country in the world and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital, and when she was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol, and she said, I don't need it.
Top of the hour ad break.
Because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company and the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it?
Subscribe if you want to see it.
President, we will break all of it.
For $5 or for free, or get gifted a sub. Here's a 3-minute ad break now.
To the PBMs, to the pharmaceutical companies. We will make it all transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that they can compete. We have to put the patient in the driver's seat. They've been in the back seat for way too long. And once we give the patient the ability to decide their healthcare, deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf of the American people.
And that's what we did.
Do you have a better way in 30 seconds?
Well, yes, we're not talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most expensive health care in the world? It's because the federal government got involved the same way they did with EVs, and they said, we're going to subsidize a particular kind of software back in 2008 under Obama, and they said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to make everyone more productive. All of you that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's got his back to you and their hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion of IT and became less productive, they saw less patients per day, is U.S. healthcare, because they were subsidizing a certain kind of technology. It wasn't about improving healthcare. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, healthcare, or now the auto industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
That was a great transition, because we are going to move on the future of education in America. What's the government's role in finding a way forward? The second Republican debate rolls on.
Okay, it's getting worse. I feel like the debates are getting worse. It's just, you know, the points are getting worse overall. Are you there?
Oh yeah, I am. Sorry, I didn't have it muted. Yeah, the Univision moderator is actually asking a lot of good questions. Like, credit to her. Like, honestly.
Yeah, she's woke. She's secretly. At first, I thought I was gonna make a joke, like, "Oh, she's woke because she's, you know, like a brown woman." But no, like, actually,
she's doing a good job.
Yeah, she's the one who also comes in with like factually accurate takes, which is odd. Like, like before the question, she'll be like, American citizens are actually trafficking the fentanyl over the border. Like, how are you going to deal with that? Yeah. Which is not something that you would ever expect from a Republican debate, because while it's factually accurate, what's up?
Our Fox.
Yeah, exactly. Even though it's factually accurate, it's precisely not what you would expect to hear from the Republican debates. So, not that it matters, because like they keep avoiding talking about it. They just like jump over it immediately and move on to whatever the fuck they want.
The Obamacare question was really funny. He just completely avoided it.
Yeah,
they're being so mean to her.
They haven't really mentioned a single. They haven't really answered a single one of the questions. It's just like it's like a talking point machine, which I guess like makes sense. That's what it's supposed to be for the most part. I do suspect that this debate in general, maybe due to not having a lot of marketing around it, maybe due to the fact that the first debate panned out in a not very productive way, with Trump not being there, is going to have abysmal ratings, I think.
Yeah, and I can't tell who's even winning by the standards of what this is supposed to be. Like, I think the only memorable moment is when they started talking over each other.
Yeah.
And that'll just make it look less legitimate and more ridiculous, and it'll just help Trump look like the only serious contender, which he is. So, I don't think any of them are winning right now.
The anti-EV stuff is kind of wild. A lot of this stuff, a lot of the talking points aren't like invented by Donald Trump. It's usually by like the American Enterprise Institute or the Heritage Foundation, and it like makes its way to these candidates. But they're going extra hard on EVs, I suspect, due to like the IRA.
I think it's the union, like the strike going on right now. Because one of the things that the union people are saying is that the UAW is that we want you to unionize the people who are working on the new vehicles, because that's not what's happening right now. And they're they're like lying about that, and they're saying, oh, the electric vehicles are taking away the jobs. It's like, no, it's a point of contention, but it's not like an actual issue.
Well, as far as parts goes, they're not technically wrong. Like, obviously EVs will have less parts.
Then just produce more cars.
Yeah, but also it's ironic because like it's more competitive if we do engage with EVs and not let China take over completely. But of course it doesn't matter. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that there was an IRA provision that was supposed to unionize the plants that were getting government subsidies to get started, which was shot down, of course, by the likes of Joe Manchin and others. Internally in the Democratic Party, which would have been a major opportunity for the Democrats to hammer on that, like, no, these are good union jobs as well. Even though under a fantasy Republican administration, let's say something similar happened, which would never happen in the same way, but the manufacturing facilities being opened up all around the country, battery facilities open up all around the country would be constantly talked about. Constantly. So
the job growth in general, like it's a bizarre framing, because under some metrics, Biden has like created the most jobs of any president, like at this point in his term. Like, there's obviously issues with that, but like that has. And I think that they probably they're trying to make people focus on that, and I think it's a little misguided. I might like write something about that like in the next couple of days. But yeah, there's like a very strong double standard there, because it's not like people were doing amazing under Trump either.
Yeah, I mean there's two different things here too. Like I do feel like people are still suffering, and I always say that like it's the same kind of suffering that they experienced before Trump, before COVID, right? So going back to like pre-COVID levels doesn't necessarily mean that the economy is healthy, which is, I think, the major, like, I think that's the big point that like a lot of the neoliberal economists don't comprehend whenever they're like, why can't the stupid workers realize that like Biden has done a phenomenal job?
Oh my God, I that is just so, it's awful. They're so like, I can't even say that like they're lying, because they've gotten so like wrapped up in that idea that they've created entire like sociological theories about it. It's like, people have just lost money, man. Like people are poorer than they were over the past 2 years.
Yeah,
it's like, it's not like some great mystery, and like it's not really his fault, but like that's just a fact of life. But they don't really seem to be all that pragmatic, which is ironic, because that's what they say that they are.
Yeah. All right, well, it's getting started
Your
again.
home state still has not enacted universal school choice, and even the current expansion won't be fully implemented until 2027. Parents can't wait 4 years for a fix. So what would you do right now?
Well, and school choice isn't the only answer, but I'll tell you it's not out of a lack of trying that we didn't try and get school choice in South Carolina. What I'll tell you, first of all, is we have to acknowledge the fact that 67% of our 8th graders are not proficient in reading or math. Over 80% of our 8th graders aren't proficient in history or civics. And
I wonder
recently
why.
they came out and said our
Abolish
12
the
and
education
13-year-olds are scoring at the lowest levels they've been scoring in reading and math in decades. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure we catch our kids back up. We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't read by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states.
There's not a single nation on the planet where privatization initiatives have actually helped with educational outcomes. Not a single one in any developing nation or developed nation. Not a
Kids
single
building the things that we know
example.
that we can.
The only examples are out there are departments of education that have moved towards privatization initiatives like in Sweden and have actually yielded negative outcomes on their educational outcomes, which immediately made them go back and change that.
On digital literacy and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do to have the jobs of the next generation.
On the subject of education, a question for Governor Christie. Students in your state are getting high marks on their report cards, but minorities are not doing well with math and reading. Black and Hispanic students averaging 29 points lower than white students in New Jersey. Would you address minorities first?
You have to address all students. And look, in our state, Stuart, frankly, before I was governor, that gap was close to 50%. And what we did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey with innovative solutions in cities like Camden, where now we took what was the worst school district in America during my time, and we have now increased that by nearly 40% in terms of their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is. This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randy Weingarten and her crew are absolutely strangling. They are taking the worst of their members and defending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day.
Yo, he's got the smoke for Jill Brandon.
The White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be. A President of the United States has to take on the teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as President of the United States.
Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you.
Are you guys having trouble seeing me?
Florida's new Black History curriculum
Who's talking?
says,
Is that
quote,
Tim?
slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. You have said
She's the GOAT.
Slaves develop skills in spite of slavery, not because of it. But many are still hurt. For descendants of slaves, this is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal. Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report. My wife and I, we have a 6, 5, and 3-year-old. This is personal to us. We didn't just talk about universal school choice, we enacted universal school choice. We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights, we enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
Senator Scott, you oppose to these new standards. What is your message for Governor DeSantis?
There is not a redeeming quality in slavery. He and Kamala should have just taken the one sentence out. America has suffered because of slavery. but we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the household to get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family. Our nation continues to go in the right direction. It's why I can say I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth. And frankly, the city on the hill needs a brand new leader. And I'm asking for your vote.
I'm going to have a question for you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Over 10.7 million students in over 18,000 public schools nationwide have the ability to change their identity without parental notification. Governor Christie told Stewart last week that he would pass a federal law to protect parental rights. Would you try to do the same?
I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met two young women early in this campaign.
Specifically on parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what the hypocrisy of this is? Even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry.
No, it's the increase of risk of suicide comes from not getting proper medical care, which you're trying to shut off.
Compassion that is cruel.
These guys are the worst with the trans issues, especially. Like
campaign,
they literally use the
now regret getting double.
They use the restrictive processes they put forward as like the reason as to why they should further harm the people.
Is barbaric. So I will ban genital mutilation or chemical castration under the age of 18, and parents have absolutely.
Damn, bro, he's gonna ban genital mutilation. No more circumcision, boys. No more circed up shouties out here. Respect. I'm an antagonist too.
Governor Burgum, just to follow up on this, because you in your state, you do not have a law that says parents can't be notified, but you want to be president. Would you try to pass a federal law to say parents have that right?
I think this is a state's issue, but I do want to say something, because all night long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken in Washington, and I respect all of the people on the stage here for their 100+ years of public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or health care or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group combined. I know I've created more jobs than everybody else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer like a customer. So in North Dakota, instead of fighting with the teachers' unions, we actually created a K-12 coordinating council. Everybody gets in the room and the customer is the student.
But you do understand that this is an issue that many people in America really are concerned about, worried about parents and notification in schools.
Yes, and that's why we have 50 platforms of innovation. That's why we have states. There are certain things the federal government is supposed to do. It's not the Department of Education. That needs to be assembled. We got to move it back to states. Do what we did in North Dakota. Instead of like, oh, here's a choice school and here's an old school, the old way with the teachers union, the kids are trapped. We made every school in North Dakota an innovation school. Every school got out from under the red tape, and the things that help teach the values that we're trying to get, like 4-H, like FFA, like Boy Scouts, they can get credit for all of that stuff in North Dakota. And by the way, North Dakota is now at the top of the median SAT scores in the country right now.
Vice President Pence, the Department
all
of
8 people from North Dakota.
Violence against LGBTQ+ people is on the rise and intensifying. According to a recent study, members of that community are 9 times more likely to be victims of violent hate crimes. As president, how would you protect this community from violent attacks and discrimination?
Well, as President of the United States, I'll stand up for the safety and the civil liberties of every American.
Even trans Americans?
And I want the American people to know that. But I want to answer the question as well, Dana, that you just asked Doug Burgum. Because by way of full disclosure, Chris, you mentioned the president's situation. My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years. And
whoa!
So full disclosure. Look, education is a state and local function. The state of Indiana had one of the very first school choice programs in the country. And when I was governor of the state of Indiana, we doubled it. And as to your question, Dana, let's be very, very clear. When the Linn-Mar Community Schools in Iowa had a policy where you had to have a permission slip from your parents to get a Tylenol, but you could get a gender transition plan without notifying your parents, I weighed in with a foundation. That's not bad policy, that's crazy. We're going to stand up for the rights of parents, and we're going to pass a federal ban on transgender chemical or surgical surgery anywhere in the country. We've got to protect our kids from this radical gender ideology
and adults,
agenda, and we've got to empower parents at the state level with the ability to choose where their kids go to school, whether it's public, private, parochial, or homeschool. You empower parents, and our schools will straighten up and reflect our values and focus on the basics faster than you could possibly imagine.
Next subject.
Can I just say one thing?
China is investing. If you talk over everybody, please. We lose time. China is investing heavily in their tech companies. $280 billion every year on semiconductor research and development. That is one CHIPS Act per year. Governor DeSantis, you say companies like Google and Meta have too much power. Doesn't going after them give China an edge?
No, I think you look at how our societies develop. They have huge amount of power over our society. They've cracked down on free speech. We're not saying you don't want them to do business, but you want it to be a free market. And right now they're monopolies. But this issue of China, I think, is really going to be fundamental. We have subcontracted out so much of our national needs to the CCP. We rely on them for a whole host of issues. We need to reshore and we need to decouple all those important industries. We need to get that back in the United States. They are our top geopolitical adversary by a country mile. Xi Jinping's got huge ambitions, not only in the Asia Pacific, but as you mentioned earlier, in our region. But ultimately, we've got to beat them on the economy. And so that's what we'll do as President of the United States.
Governor Christie, I wanted to follow up on this because 22% of American workers fear their jobs will be lost to a robot. And you said in the past that the free market is the way to go. Would you retrain workers who lose a job to artificial intelligence, and to do what?
Well, look, what I think artificial intelligence offers us is an extraordinary opportunity to expand well beyond the productivity that we have now, and to have Americans be able to be involved in that revolution, Dana. You know, each time we have shown incredible innovation and progress in this country. What we've done with it is to expand all kinds of new, even unthought of opportunities for folks. Yes, we have to do retraining for folks who lose some of their jobs, and we should be doing that. And we should have more training available both at the county college level and the local level for people to be able to access it. So yes, I would be in favor of that. But this is a much bigger issue than that. We can't be afraid of innovation. America has been the great innovator of this world over the last 250 years, a technological innovator, a manufacturing innovator, and a freedom and governmental innovator. And that's why America has to continue to stand strong in the world, pro-innovation, pro-progress. And I will tell you this, as President of the United States, what I will do is to make sure that every innovator in this country gets the government the hell off its back and out of its pocket so that it can innovate and bring great new inventions to our country that will make everybody's lives better.
Mr. Ramaswamy, TikTok is banned on government-issued devices because of its ties to the Chinese government.
But you made a TikTok,
bitch. After dinner with boxer and influencer Jake Paul. Should the commander-in-chief be so easily persuaded by an influencer?
So the answer is I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the Democrats are running rampant, reaching the next generation 3-1, there's exactly one person in the Republican Party which talks a big game about reaching young people, and that's me. And let me level with all of you. I'm the new guy here, and so I know I have to earn your trust. What do you see? You see a young man who's in a bit of a hurry, maybe a little ambitious, bit of a know-it-all, it seems at times. I'm here to tell you, no, I don't know it all. I will listen. I will have the best people, the best and brightest in this country, whatever age they are, advising me. We will be probably many of the people on this stage included. That's how I built my companies. I want to be challenged. I want people who disagree with me. That's what makes America great, because we're not a perfect nation. We're founded on the pursuit of perfection. That is what makes America great. And that is why we will end it once we win this election.
I have to jump. I have to jump in here. I'm sorry.
Was speaking.
There's one person on this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say, because I can't believe that here you've got a TikTok situation. What they're doing is these 150 million people are on TikTok. That means they can get your contacts, they can get your financial information, they can get your emails, they can get text messages, they can get all of these things.
This is very important for our party. This is very important for our party, and I'm going to say
you've gone and you've helped China make medicines in China, not America. You're now wanting kids to go and get on the social media that's dangerous for all of us. You went and you were in business with the Chinese that gave Hunter Biden $5 million. We can't trust you. We can't trust you.
Damn.
TikTok and
I think that this is very important.
Bro, this is fucking Desi on Desi violence right now. This is crazy.
You have 15 seconds, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Yo, Nikki Haley is kind of nice with it.
Republican Party, if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually have a legitimate debate about policy, following Reagan's 11th Commandment in his honor. And the answer is that is what actually makes our country strong. And I believe in these people. These are good people on the stage. They disagree, but let's have a legitimate disagreement. That's what I would say.
Stuart, can we get back to the question? The
no,
question
we
is
cannot.
on technology.
Governor DeSantis,
There's
I'm
one
going
person
straight
on this stage
Sir,
that has a career in
we will have to cut your mic, and I don't want to do that. I don't. So, Governor DeSantis, let me go to you. Experts say President Putin has ordered assassinations across Europe, cheated on arms control treaties with the U.S., and seeks to work with China to force our decline. President Reagan believed that if you want to prevent a war, you better be prepared to fight one. Today, the Republican Party is at odds over aid to Ukraine. The price tag so far is $76 billion. But is it in our best interest to degrade Russia's military for less than 5% of what we pay annually on defense, especially when there are no U.S.
Will the liberals consider that this is their position as well?
End this war.
Will the liberals in the chat consider that?
We are not going to have a blank check. We will not have U.S. troops, and we're going to make the Europeans.
That was Chris Murphy who said that, by the way.
They've sent money to pay bureaucrats' pensions and salaries and funding small businesses halfway around the world. Meanwhile, our own
my controversial take is that that funding part is not bad, actually.
Even have control of our own
even though that's
territory.
conditional and it's going to fucking, it's just going to come with austerity and control.
Before we even worry about all these other things. And I watch these guys in Washington, D.C., and they don't care.
I don't give a shit that they're funding Ukrainian small businesses. Like, I don't care.
They don't care about the communities
I do hate that it's
overrun
like funding the worst types of subsidies.
They don't care about the Mexican drug cartels. So as Commander-in-Chief, I will defend this country's sovereignty.
But it's not a territorial dispute. It's never been a territorial dispute.
And 90% of the resources that we send over to Ukraine is guaranteed. It's a loan. It is not 90% of the money that we send over there is loan. Well, we can talk about this, but at the end of the day, 90% of the money that we send over there is actually in the form of a loan. It's not actually not be paid by Ukraine. It's paid by the NATO, our NATO allies.
So I think it's a good topic.
I think it's a really good topic too. But I will say let's get to our NATO allies.
So I think it's a good topic.
I think it's a really good topic too. But I will say let's get topic too. But I will say let's debate the fact that our national vital interests
The fuck just happened?
You said something about waiting until your turn to talk. So hold on.
Feed's going crazy. Feed's going nutty.
I'll be happy to
Go
debate
ahead
on
and
this.
I'll respond.
I'll look forward to this one right now. So at the end of the day, when you think about the fact that if you want to keep American troops at home, an attack on NATO territory would bring us and our troops in. By degrading the Russian military, we reduce, if not eliminate, an attack on NATO territory.
They all have the liberal position. Every single person is a liberal. This is the bipartisan consensus.
The reality is, just because Putin is Putin's an evil dictator does not mean that Ukraine is good. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties.
A win
that has
for
actually,
Russia is a
that
win
is not
for
true.
China.
We're driving
a win
Russia.
For Russia
excuse
is
me.
a win for China.
Excuse me. If you have
but
a chance,
I forgot you like China. That's why you're.
You'll have your chance in just a moment. Yeah. The hurling personal insults isn't helping. China is the real enemy, and we're driving Russia further into China's arms.
Vivek, come in with that hot foreign policy.
To end this, especially, this is a country whose president just last week was hailing
you let Putin have Ukraine, that's a green light to China to take Taiwan.
We need a
peace comes through strength.
We need a reasonable plan to peace.
Governor Christie.
The Communist Party of China is the real enemy.
Governor Christie. President Biden's first 2 years have brought China, Russia, and Iran closer together. Are we focused too much on Ukraine and not enough on this threat from the New World Order?
No, they're all connected, Stuart. They're all connected. The Chinese are paying for the Russian war in Ukraine. The Iranians are supplying more sophisticated weapons, and so are the North Koreans now as well, with the encouragement of the Chinese. The naivete on this stage from some of these folks is extraordinary. Look, I understand people want to go and talk to Putin. Guess what? So did George W. Bush. So did Barack Obama. So did Donald Trump. And so did Joe Biden when he said a small invasion wouldn't be so bad. Every one of them has been wrong. And the fact of the matter is, we need to say right now that the Chinese-Russian alliance is something we have to fight against, and we are not going to solve it by going over and cuddling up to Vladimir Putin. Look, Donald Trump said Vladimir Putin was brilliant and a great leader. This is the person who is murdering people in his own country, and now not having enough blood, he's now going to Ukraine to murder innocent civilians and kidnap 20,000 children. And let me tell you, if you think that's where it's going to stop, if we give him any of Ukraine, next will be Poland. This is a guy who said, this is a guy in 1991 who said that was the darkest moment in world history when the Soviet Union fell. Listen, everybody, he wants to put the old band back together, and only America can stop it. Right. And when I'm president, we will.
Governor Burgum, I want to get to Governor Burgum. He hasn't had a chance. I have a question I think you're going to really like, or at least you have experience in it. And we need to talk about America's farmers, because there is a foreign policy connection here. The U.S. and China are in this fierce economic competition. It's hurting American businesses, and there is blowback against American farmers because China then targets them in retaliation. How would you, as president, protect American farmers and ranchers from that kind of retaliation from a foreign government like China?
Well, first of all, we've got the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in America. If they have a level playing field, they can outcompete anyone in the world. But this is part of the larger issue that we're talking about.
Yeah, bro, they're going band for band with subsidies.
And the Biden administration
and
will
losing.
admit that. But we're also in an economic war through what we're doing with agriculture and energy. And we're also in a war with them relative to cyber war.
Can't go band for band against
every
fucking...
day. In North Dakota, every state, every school district, our tribes, all being attacked every day by either China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea. And now we've got a Biden administration.
When I'm going band for band with China.
Appeasement. They're out there, creating the world, making it less safe. $6 billion they traded for 5 people. They've just now set a price on anyone's head who's a tourist from America, who's a student from America, for kidnapping. If you want more kidnapping, put a price on it. And then they're also helping Iran get to have more closer to nuclear weapon, which pushes
China
all of the Middle East closer to China and Russia.
China doesn't
the whole thing
have
is absurd.
enough.
And then, of course, we're going to give
China doesn't have a
Ukraine
camera
to
good enough to
Russia,
show
and
the
then
money
we're
spread.
going to give Taiwan to China and think that's a foreign policy. That will make our nation less less successful, make us more poor. And at the core of all that is energy policy, because China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day. They're the largest importer in the world, and we've had 4 cabinet members from the Biden administration there this summer, and none of them talked about U.S. energy. The first one to go to each of those countries was Kerry to talk about the folly of the climate policy, which is making the world less stable. It's empowering dictators. It's not about climate change that we need worried about. It's about the Biden climate policies that are actually the existential threat to America's future.
Thank you.
Can I speak about
Governor Haley, Mexico's president called who supports sending U.S. military into the country, quote, scoundrels. Mexico is the United States' most important trade partner and border security. You say you will send special operations to attack the cartels in Mexico. So, this means boots on the ground, drone strikes?
It means special operations. It's how we deal with our terrorists. And what you need to do is understand
Oh my God.
that Mexico's
they're invading
not being
Mexico.
a good partner.
Oh my God, they're all invading
75,000
Mexico.
Americans last year. Mexico's not being a good partner if they're letting the cartels get away with what they're getting away with. What we will do is we will make sure that we send in our special operations and we will take
Bro, that's
out
so funny.
the
That's
cartel.
literally what Putin said for
We'll take
Ukraine.
out anything that's doing it, but we're going to go after China because China is the one sending the fentanyl
Just
in the
a
first
special
place.
operation.
And we will end all normal trade relations until China stops sending fentanyl. And then we'll do the special operations and we'll get it from both sides. This is where President Trump went wrong. He focused on trade with China. He didn't focus on the fact that they were buying up our farmland. He didn't focus on the fact that they were killing Americans. He didn't focus on the fact that they were stealing $600 billion in intellectual property. He didn't focus on the fact that they put a spy base off our shores in Cuba. They didn't focus enough on the fact that all of our law enforcement drones in America are Chinese, and we've got all these little surveillance cells. We need to start focusing on what keeps Americans safe. That hasn't happened in a long time. As your president, I will make sure every American is safe, and we'll do whatever it takes to make that happen.
All right. I want to get to Senator Scott. You're all auditioning for the job as President of the United States. You want to earn these votes. But the world's problems land in the Oval Office. During the presidential debates in the year 2000, neither Al Gore nor George W. Bush was asked about al-Qaeda. Just 1 year later, al-Qaeda's attack on September 11th claimed nearly 3,000 lives. And the farther we get from September 11th, the closer we are to September 10th. Senator Scott, you have no executive branch experience. What has prepared you to protect the nation from a major man-made national security crisis?
9/11
One
too,
of the
baby.
things I've had the good fortune of doing is serving on committees in the United States Senate, like the Senate Armed Services Committee. I'm on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, also on the Finance Committee and the Banking Committee. Talk about addressing the issue of fentanyl. I've written the legislation, passed it through the Banking Committee and the Senate that would freeze the assets and sanction the accounts of the Mexican cartels. There are weapons that we have within the arsenal that I was able to get past 23-0 in the polarizing Senate as it is. I've also understood without question the fact that if you look at the details before 9/11, there was information and intelligence that was available that suggested an attack was coming. Having the right intelligence partners with us is key to making sure that we prevent the next 9/11 from ever happening. Having that experience for the last 10 years is really important in getting the job done.
30 seconds to you, Mr. Pence.
Well, I think you asked a question about executive experience. I think it's vitally important. And I stand before you today as a candidate for president because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. And you hear the fire on the stage tonight. You hear the fire in all of our voices. And it's because Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad.
Totally.
This is a time for those of us that have the experience, the tested experience, and a commitment to the conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan brought forward in this party of a strong national defense, standing with our allies, standing up to our enemies, supporting limited government and traditional values, need to step forward.
Understood.
Because, frankly, our party does face a time for choosing, as I said at the top of this debate. whether we're going to stand on the foundation of that conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan poured, or whether we're going to follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative principles. I'm the most experienced, most qualified, and most consistent conservative in this field, and I'm ready to lead America at home and abroad on day one.
Time for choosing to go to a break. Ilya.
We need to go to a commercial break. Reagan built a coalition that lasted decades. Can any of these candidates do the same? We'll take.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I don't think so. All right, that's more of a shit show than previously.
Okay, yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, I mean, maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but I don't see like any standout player here. I guess like Nikki Haley.
Haley and when she insulted Vivek when they
Yeah,
were just, like,
Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley had a good line. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked when Tim Scott said they let it happen on purpose. He listened to blowback.
Yeah. Also, Nikki Haley is, I mean, obviously it's bipartisan. The Ukraine situation is completely bipartisan. Like,
yeah.
Everyone is literally, except for Vivek, who doesn't even take like a more reasonable position for some reason.
No.
That like even Trump knows that. Trump will often read the room really well and say something along the lines of like, "Oh, I would fix it. I would handle it." Like it's fantasy.
Yeah.
It's pure fantasy, right?
He'd do a deal. He's president deals.
Yeah, I do a deal in one day, 24 hours, it'd be over, right? But like going into they need like billions more in weapons and funding and whatnot is I don't think very popular in the Republican on the the Republican voter base, especially in the primaries. So
no, it's not it's increasingly unpopular with voters in general, which I think a lot of like most politicians didn't anticipate, and it's especially not popular with Republicans because of negative polarization. They see it as a thing Biden is doing, and they say, well, we have to disapprove of that.
Yeah. So it's this really unique predicament now where they all are still going to push the bipartisan line, the bipartisan project, but Vivek decides to just like come at it from the top rope and just be like, no, we should give Ukraine to Russia and then arm everyone in Taiwan and then give Taiwan to China. Like, I don't even, it's like a weird, he's like more focused on xenophobia and like hitting the anti.
This is a consistent thing with like the right versus the left where there's different kind of poles of militarism where the left are like, it's called the Yankee Cowboy War. There's like some like deep theory with this where the Yankees want to focus on Europe and shoring up Europe and NATO while the Cowboys want to expand west. So you can track this all the way back to the Mexican-American War. This is like deep shit. And so Vivek is a cowboy and Biden is a Yankee. And there's no like actual like any decreased militarism here. He just wants to change the focus to more confrontation with China. So anybody
the other ones want to focus on Mexico, which by the way I don't think is real, but
invading Mexico too, which is insane that they don't talk about that enough. Nobody talks about it, they just want to fucking invade Mexico.
Yeah, they keep saying special military operation, which is pretty funny because like Nikki Haley on the one hand will be like, Putin invaded Ukraine and it was so unjustifiable, it was totally fucked up, which he ironically also calls a special military project or a special like a specific small tiny military thing. And then she uses the exact same fucking terms to talk about invading Mexico, which is psychotic.
Yeah. Nobody asks them how they're going to pay for that. You talk about any program, and they're like, oh, how are you going to pay for it? And they just say, oh, we're just going to invade fucking Mexico. Well, how are you going to get money for that? They never ask them.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. Obviously, there's never any deficit or budgetary concerns when it comes to discretionary spending. That's when we're printing and it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's wild. It's ridiculous. They also are still hitting the, abolish the Department of Education, which they kind of scaled back on a little bit. Like they didn't go as hard at least this time around. And hit the trans button way harder. But
yeah, they've kind of backpedaled on that. It's because of my article. I exposed it because none of this shit never wins elections. It's really funny. People
especially deficits, especially like budgets. Like we need to balance the budget or deficit. Like deficit hawking is so unpopular, even on the Republican Party side, because nobody gives a shit. It's all fake anyway, and Trump kind of like blew that up entirely. All right, we're back.
Oil is close to $100 a barrel again. You say, drill, baby, drill. But the courts won't let you. Mr. Ramaswamy, how would you bring down prices without immediate drilling?
Well, look, I think that we do have to run through the courts and get through that administrative state to make sure we're using the natural resources here at home. But here's the other thing that we can do that's easy.
It would take forever, Mr. Ramaswamy.
And it addresses the national debt as well as brings down prices. Put people back to work. We are using taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home than to go to work. That is wrong. That contributes to our supply chain crisis. It contributes to inflation. That's the easiest way to unlock this economy. And here's the other thing. We have to put the Federal Reserve back in its place. This is an agency that has gone rogue. So in January 2026, when I have the opportunity as our next commander-in-chief, we will have a new chairman of the Federal Reserve who places priority.
He's going to bring the military into the Federal Reserve.
Most importantly, send packing 75% of the administrative state. Reduce the federal employee headcount by 75%.
He's like,
rescind 50%.
He's like, we're going back to quantitative easing until all of my buddies in Silicon Valley are making money again.
Both large and small. I've offered a very clear, practical plan to do it. That's how we unleash the economy. That's how we revive the integrity of a three-branch constitutional republic rather than this technocracy and aristocracy in the administrative state.
Response, please.
I think one of the signature accomplishments of our administration was in just a few short years, we achieved energy independence. We became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 75 years. But on day one, Joe Biden declared a war on energy, which was no surprise because when Joe Biden ran for president, he said he was going to end fossil fuels. And they've been working overtime to do that ever since. If I'm president of the United States, we're going to open up federal lands. We're going to unleash American energy. We're going to have an all-of-the-above energy strategy. And I have a plan that actually would not only reclaim energy independence, but in 2006, America lost our position as the leading energy producer on Earth. I believe in the next 10 years, with the right policies and experienced leadership in the White House, we can reclaim our role as the leading energy producer on Earth, and that'll grow the American economy for generations to come.
Governor Haley, reaction to that, please.
As the only person who's leading an energy state, could I answer the energy question?
No, Governor Haley.
So, you know, the first thing I'll say is what I saw at the United Nations is energy security is national security. We need a president that understands we have to partner with our producers and make sure that we have their backs. What you don't need is a president who is against energy independence. Ron DeSantis is against fracking. He's against drilling. He's been against. You did it. He always talks about what happens on day one. You better watch out because what happens on day two is when you're in trouble. Day two in Florida, you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you did it on federal lands, and you took green subsidies that you didn't have to take.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned. You have the right to respond. 30 seconds.
Yeah. I just did a plan out in West Texas for American energy dominance. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow. We're going to choose the Marcellus over the Mullahs, and we're going to choose Bakken over Beijing, and we are going to lower your gas prices. We are going to get that job done because it's important for our national security, it's important for jobs, and that's one of the best ways to drive down inflation.
Governor DeSantis, Governor DeSantis,
Governor DeSantis,
this question is for you.
Our voters enacted a constitutional amendment.
You banned it before they voted.
Doesn't allow. No, it's not true.
You banned it before they voted, Nikki, and not only that, fracking wasn't. They didn't vote on fracking.
She's just totally wrong. They voted it in. That's what we did. Onshore, we do it in Florida. We don't have as much as maybe West Texas, but we do it. But that was a constitutional amendment. So that's just wrong. And let's just get real here. My plan will get the job done. We are going to be energy dominant.
His incentive to ban it was the coral reefs are dying, which is surprising because.
Moving on with this question for Governor DeSantis. Excuse me, we cannot talk over each other. We must respect each other's time. My apologies for that.
God, I'm going to fuck the name up.
This is your
Edgar
question.
Mentum actually covered this extensively as well.
On student loan forgiveness, but you say colleges should be on the hook when graduates cannot pay their debt. How does that address the cost of college? The cost of college itself?
Because the colleges are going to have to make a decision. Do we expand the gender studies department, knowing some of those graduates may not have great learning opportunities? No, they're going to focus on the things that really matter. They're going to make different choices. They're going to try to graduate people in 4 years. I also just want to come back to something Dana asked last segment about 9/11, because I was just at the 9/11 memorial with the families. My wife and I were invited. It's very touching to be there, and it affected my life because I ended up joining the military as a result of that. I had been a blue-collar kid, minimum wage in Dunedin, Florida. I ended up getting through Yale and Harvard Law School and somehow came out more conservative than when I went in, and that is not easy to do. Had a lot of opportunities to make money, but I wanted to serve, and I'll never forget coming back on the plane from Iraq, landing in Coronado, California, North Island, and feeling that breeze off the Pacific Ocean.
I love when he talks about it like he was a veteran who like toured and did combat.
And I think being able to serve, and I'll be the first president elected since 1988 who's actually served overseas in a war, I think that's going to help me as commander-in-chief to know how you see these issues and understand that there are real lives at stake for people that wear the uniform.
And we know that Governor Haley's husband is serving right now as well, and we thank him for that. Senator Scott, the national debt has nearly doubled in your time in office. The approval rate for Congress is at a mere 19%. If this were a business, you'd probably all be fired in Washington, but you're here tonight looking for a promotion. In 2013, Governor Haley hired you for the Senate. I'd like you to tell her why you should be promoted to CEO of the nation instead of her.
Certainly. One of the things I'd say is if you look at our national debt of $33 trillion, I would love to have an opportunity to have this country pass a balanced budget amendment. That would constrain the spending in Washington.
The fucking balanced budget, baby. That's what I'm talking about, Tim, you fucking virgin.
If you want to actually reduce our national debt, you have to grow our economy. In order
Hit
to
the
grow
high
our economy,
notes, baby.
You need to create about 10 million jobs to grow our economy at 5%. You can do that in 3 specific sectors. Number one, the energy sector. We could create between 3 and 3.5.
Tim, you better balance some bitches, dog. What do you mean balance the budget?
Of our energy resources. America is we're the richest country if you combine coal, gas, and oil. Why not unleash all of our resources? Number 2, we've lost 100,000 factories. 100,000 factories in the last 25 years. If we continued on my Made in America plan, we could bring jobs back to America in a similar fashion that we did when I wrote the tax
How are we going to
cuts
pay for that, Tim, while balancing the budget? How are we going to pay for that?
From 35% to 21%, reshored or repatriated $1.7 trillion. We brought the unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians to the lowest level in the history of the country, and a 70-year low for women.
Governor Haley, would you think you would deserve the promotion over him?
Look, I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long time, but he's been there 12 years and he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't. They've only given 4 budgets on time in 40 years. He was part of that. He increased the national debt. He voted for the spending.
You voted
he has made sure that the borders are open and they haven't done anything. Look at everything that's happened. 12 years. Where have you been? Where have you been, Tim?
I voted on most of those things.
We've waited.
I love that on the Republican side, it's about who's worse at doing politics. Like it's a race to the bottom. He's like, no, you don't understand. I stopped legislation from happening way harder than you.
I'm the only one up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida, and that's what it's all about.
Oh, God. California Republicans need to be fucking locked up, dude, for clapping at this clown man.
Keep the state free.
Go live in Florida, you fucking losers, okay? Get the fuck out of my state, you fucking pieces of shit.
We have won the big
clapping at the dorkiest goddamn Republican on a sea of fucking darks.
Respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked about it.
CEO? We actually have a CEO of the White House, which is what I think we need. If I may just briefly interject here, we need a zero-based budgeting. That's the way businesses are actually run. Start with 0 as the baseline for the budget, and then see what's actually necessary. There isn't a blue state or a red state in this union that does it. The federal government doesn't do it, but successful companies, including the ones that I've built as a CEO, will do it. And I think we need a CEO in the White House to get that done.
Governor Burgum runs a state that way. Yes, go ahead.
He said, shut the fuck up, Vivek.
Energy questions, you don't ask anything, but I'm just going to say right now, when you say nobody else has done it,
He said
The energy
zero
plans that have all
budget.
been
He's
announced in the last month
he's
by these
so
other folks on
crazy.
stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota. The border plans they're already talking about, we've got troops down at the border flying helicopter missions from North Dakota, from San Diego to the Gulf Coast.
From North Dakota to South
trying
Dakota.
To stop transnational criminal organizations from inflicting the invasion and the mass casualties.
Burgum,
in
you're
our
the North
state.
Dakota
And the
governor. What do
energy
you mean,
policy, we're
Border
already doing it.
Patrol?
It's not saying when nobody else done the big fights. North Dakota was leading the charge. We won the battle to get the Biden administration, who was ignoring the law. They were the first administration since Truman that wasn't holding the quarterly required lease sales, and we won that in federal court. WOTUS, we won that in federal court. We're fighting the Biden administration on 20 fronts. To say that nobody's fighting the big fights, just look at the record of what we're doing right now.
He said my people are
Energy,
fighting at the
economy,
border,
national
dude.
security have been talking about it since day one, and now finally, good, we're having the conversation about it, but we've got the answer in North Dakota.
Governor Burgum, let's talk big government. This question's for you. Big government keeps getting bigger. 1/5 of all new jobs this year have been created by the government. Governor Burgum, you say you want to shrink the size of government, but it has been a century since any president has done that. Why would you be any different?
Well, because we've done it in North Dakota. When I took office, we shrunk the state budget general fund by 27% in the first 4 months I was office.
Yeah, bro, because your state is more cows than people. Shut the fuck
Because you had
up.
a business leader that was actually there. Inside of every government job, there's 10 or 20% of mind-numbing, soul-sucking work that even the state and federal employees don't want to do.
This is Mitt Romney, by the way. He is literally sexy Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's pretty sexy,
2 million
too.
civilian employees. And by the way, we've got 10 million jobs open. They'd have plenty to do, and they could be generating taxes instead of being paid by taxes. This is totally possible to do it if you have somebody that understands, because having worked in technology for 30 years, everything we had to do was to be better, faster, and cheaper the next day. That's what we can do in government. That's what we're doing in North Dakota.
All right. Governor DeSantis, I want to ask you about something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down to less than 50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in
He's literally
6 states in
abortion
2022.
finally. Oh my God, finally.
Republicans lost all of them.
I can't wait.
Next
I
year,
can't wait
abortion will likely
I
be
can't
on
wait
the
for
ballot
Mike Pence to
in
be like, we
Arizona.
should kill every
That is a
person who's a
must-win
prospective
state.
mom who might
Governor
even think about
DeSantis,
getting an
How are you
abortion.
going to win over independent, pro-choice voters?
Mike Pence is
in
about to be like,
Arizona?
we should kill
Same way we
moms
did
in general.
Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history of the state, over 1.5 million votes. We were winning places like Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, that nobody thought was possible because we were leading with purpose and conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that. He should be here explaining his comments to try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time.
I want him to look at the baby in the pan,
earlier today,
the size of a
gravesite
penny.
of President and Mrs. Reagan, and I noticed that there was a quote where it says, every single person has purpose and worth. We're better off when everybody
he's bragging about winning
counts.
debates before
and I
he
think we
signed.
should stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
I like that he's shitting on Trump and he's trying to do the Trump thing, but worse.
Yes, I will. Okay, Governor Christie.
That's
do
the
you
master,
think that
baby. You can't come
Republicans
after him like
can
that.
do that in Arizona if this referendum is on the ballot there?
Yeah, because I did it in New Jersey, Dana. You know, it's
Then why are all these other states losing?
Chris Christie banned abortion in New Jersey?
The way it should be led. And the fact is, look, I was the governor here of the only blue state that's represented up here. This is where the fight is really tough for Republicans. And those are the states that we're going to have to try to win if we're going to win the White House back. And what we did was 14 times, Dana, in 8 years, I vetoed Planned Parenthood funding. 14 times. No one else gets it that much. The Democrats just kept sending it to me, and I kept saying no because I believe in life, but I also believe in states' rights. And I think we fought hard against Roe versus Wade for decades to say that states should make these decisions. So we're going to have those fights in the states. But what you need is a leader who can talk to people and make them understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about fentanyl.
Bro, he's
tonight,
running
and
for
we
a
haven't spoken
Democratic
one moment
primary.
about treatment. But we need to make sure that for the drug-addicted 16-year-old on the floor of the county lockup, her life is precious too. And we need to be providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. If you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents and 51% of Latinos because I told them the truth from my heart.
Thank you.
Vice President Pence, the latest Univision poll found that 73% of Latino voters think the Republican Party doesn't care about or is being hostile toward them, the Hispanic community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish. How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Well, I promise you that we're going to continue to build bridges to every community in this country. And I'm incredibly proud.
And we're going to build walls.
Tax cut and tax reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law, the largest tax cut in American history. We saw literally the lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans, the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, 50-year low.
Yeah, Trump did that. Mike Pence always hitting the fucking Trump lines, dude.
A champion for
so
the
good.
American dream for every American. It begins with the unborn and the aged and the infirm, and it begins with every ethnic group in this country.
See? Bro, he's bringing it back to abortion. What a fucking freak.
I'll be a champion.
Dude, they gave him a layup by not asking him an abortion. He's like, no, I still got to talk about it.
So help me God.
Senator Scott, reaction?
What a freak, dude.
There's no doubt that if you lead by example, it's the best way to get the job done. If you look at my office in the Senate, my chief of staff is the only Hispanic female chief of staff in the Senate. I hired her because she was the best, highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example. And I will simply say, I would love to finish my conversation with Nikki as it relates to the job that needs to get done. Nikki offered a 10-cent gas tax increase in South Carolina. Talk about someone who has never seen a federal dollar she doesn't like. 10 cents on the gallon in South Carolina. As the UN ambassador, you literally put $50,000 on curtains in a $15 million subsidized location.
Oh, shit.
You got bad information. First of all, I fought the gas tax in South Carolina multiple times against the establishment.
Just go to YouTube.
Against the establishment.
Just go to
and
YouTube
you want to know what that 10 cent was? When they wouldn't pass the gas tax, the establishment and the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will pass it if you will give us three.
All you have to do is go watch Nikki Haley on YouTube.
If you will give me 3 times the deduction in income tax, then I will look at your gas tax, which is why it didn't happen.
Exactly, Ron.
Secondly, on the 50 million.
Here is a nice part.
Secondly, on the curtains, do your homework, Tim, because Obama bought those curtains.
Did you send them back?
It's in the press.
Did you send them back?
It's the State Department.
Did you send them back?
Did you send them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
You get it
You
done.
hung them on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence. You are scrapping. You are scrapping.
I'm not scrapping.
You know
Here's a fact. Here's a fact, though.
I cut taxes.
Look at Ron. He's so sad. He looks like even Ron still looks like a bitch.
We do not intend to go ahead like this. In fact, we're about to take a commercial break. We'll have more of the second Republican debate live from the Reagan Presidential Library.
I don't understand how Ron DeSantis still looks like a bitch when it's fucking Nikki Haley and Tim duking it out, and he's just like crying in the middle, like.
They're talking about freaking like curtains. They're talking about curtains. It's insane. I don't even know what they're talking about. And this has gone. How long is this? Like 2.5 hours? Like, damn, this is like going on.
I feel like the curtain stuff would be more like it would be a better attack line because like it's more personal. You know what I mean? If it was like something that was more known, you know what I mean?
What's the curtains lore? I don't even know about that.
I don't know either. That's what I'm saying. Like he introduced it like something that people should know, and like he's like Google it. It's like nah, man, that doesn't work that way.
This is like hardcore shit. This is hardcore deep lore. This is like FromSoft. They have like item descriptions about the curtains.
Yeah, but Vanity Fair wrote about it in 2018. The State Department spent $52,000 on curtains for Nikki Haley's residence.
The school girl boss.
So
she deserved it. I'm glad I paid
she's
for
a boss
that.
bitch, and should win.
She's doing the graper face in the picture.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, Nikki Haley is the only standout here overall out of anybody that we've seen. Chris Christie, you and I were talking about it in the Discord, but like Chris Christie, I've been making jokes about how he's like running for the Democratic primary, and I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Like why he only goes on CNN, he only goes on MSNBC. He literally he almost
profound. I think he just feels bad for like sucking up to Trump for so long. I made a tier list of all of the Republican presidential candidates. That's like on my newsletter if you guys are interested in that. And when I got to him, I legitimately couldn't rank him. I had to create an unranked, like untiered hell. Yeah, that's the picture I used for him. And I have like captions for that. That was a real thing Trump said. But I couldn't like even find a thing for him. But that's what he looks like.
He is so unpopular. Like
he's the most hated man in New Jersey.
He is. Wait, he's literally the most. He has the lowest approval ratings out of any of the people running in the Democratic primary in every state, right?
Yeah, he's the most hated politician in the country. He
Yeah,
had a 15% approval rating when he left office.
It just doesn't make any fucking. It doesn't make any sense because like he also doesn't seem to be like running for the Republican primary. I don't know why.
He looks miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, I said Democratic primary again. Sorry, Chad. Oh, so, I mean, Ramaswamy, shut the fuck up a little bit on this one. I feel like Mike Pence is a bloodthirsty, psychopathic vampire who literally got a layup because, like, when they started talking about abortion, I was like, this is the trickiest, obviously. This is the trickiest point of contention. Even Trump can't triangulate around this, like, well enough where he goes, oh, I just wanted to start a conversation. Which is like the biggest pussy shit you could fucking say, because like on the one hand he wants to take credit for it, but on the other hand he knows that like everyone hates him for it. You know what I mean? Like 70% of the country is like fuck this shit, and it's going to be the winning issue for the Democratic Party unless they like somehow magically fuck it up. I don't know how.
Well, they kind of are with Biden because everybody fucking hates him.
Yeah,
that's like the one which is really annoying that I've kind of been stuck on. They would like win, like if you look at like the elections that have been happening like over like the past year. Democrats are winning those elections that don't have Joe Biden in them by like Reagan like landslide levels. Like they're currently performing at a level where they'd win like by 14 points nationally. But Biden is so unpopular, he may be fucking that up. So it's like they need to tell him to go home. They need to like hit him with the CIA heart attack gun and get him. But then
the alternative is Kamala Harris, who's also, I mean, you know, Kamala Harris. So we're cooked on that front.
Yeah. So you gotta hope that they can like get somebody. It's so frustrating. Because if they could just get somebody normal, like just get some random person, like
Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, even Gavin. Well, Gavin Newsom has
I don't
issues as well.
I don't know about Gavin. He looks too much like a Patrick Bateman.
I think he comes across disingenuous, unlike Gretchen Whitmer, who is well liked, and JB Pritzker as well. Gavin Newsom also has a lot of issues in California that he has not solved at all. So I think that would be a genuine, like nationally speaking, it doesn't matter if California's violent crime rate across the board is like significantly lower than the national average. Everyone thinks California is like a shithole where there's crimes happening every single second. And also there's too many homeless people. So he's never going to be able to.
Newsom is to the right of the state legislator in California. He wouldn't like the average California Democrat is to the left of him. He's pretty conservative. So
yeah, exactly. I think this probably got to be the last one,
and
right?
Candidates. It's now obvious that if you all stay in the race, former President Donald Trump wins the nomination. None of you have indicated that you're dropping out. So, which one of you on stage tonight should be voted off the island? Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you.
That's cool. I like this. This is fun.
Who should be?
Wait, what? This is dude. This is so.
We're happy to debate.
They're doing reality TV. That's fire.
Nobody wants to participate.
Let's do some questions. Let's talk about the future of the country.
Oh, boo! You fucking pussy.
If I may, let me ask you something. Then if you won't answer that question,
they're not serious. Like they're not this is not a serious debate. Shut the fuck up and write the name down,
Governor
you idiot.
DeSantis, in order to try to beat President Trump, who has a commanding and enduring lead in this race.
So, Polls don't elect presidents. Voters elect presidents.
Right.
And we're going to take the case to the people in these early states. We're going to do it in a state-by-state direction. And why? Because as Reagan said in his day, this is our time for choosing. We are not getting a mulligan on the 2024 election. Republicans have lost 3 straight elections in a row. We were supposed to have a red wave with inflation at 9%. It crashed and burned. Not in Florida, it didn't.
Oh, God. Uh-oh.
We delivered it in Florida. And so we've got to choose right. We've got to win. And we need somebody that's going to be able to serve 2 terms. So in January of 2023.
The fuck? Hold up. Let me see if there's a better. Hold on.
They'll be able to address the nation saying, we turned the economy around, we secured the border, and we fended off the threat from communist China. As your president, I will get that job done.
Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something. Governor Christie, I believe, excuse me, Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something on the card. Who was it?
No, but I'll certainly tell you.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I think I've been the only one on this stage who's been clear about this. I vote Donald Trump off the island right now. And the reason I vote him off the island,
but any of the people on the stage,
you know what? Every person on this stage has shown the respect for Republican voters to come here to express their views honestly, candidly, and directly, and
There's
to take
such
your questions honestly.
civility
I have respect
lives,
for every
dude.
man and woman
Brave.
on this stage because they've done it. Vivek, put your hand down for a second, would you? I still got time, dude. So chill out.
Call him dude.
Look, this guy has not only divided our party, he's divided families all over this country. He's divided friends all over this country. I've spoken to people, and I know everyone else has, who have sat at Thanksgiving dinner or at a birthday party and can't have a conversation anymore if they disagree with Donald Trump. He needs to be voted off the island, and he needs to be taken out of this process.
Can we get Vivek 15 seconds?
All right, you got 15 seconds, Vivek.
Look, I have a different view on this. I think Trump was an excellent president. But the America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And the question is, who's going to unite this country and take the America First agenda to the next level? When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we did not just hunger for a single man.
Oh,
we
God, nobody
for
likes
the
it. Nobody likes you,
pursuit of
Vivek.
excellence. So yes, I will respect Donald Trump and his legacy because it's the right thing to do. But we will unite this country.
Oh, shit.
For the second Republican primary debate.
Oh, fuck. All right, no worries. I got backup. Let's go. Oh, it's over.
Mike Pence, Senator Tim Scott will join us right here on
it
set.
Ended.
By the way, someone you might not expect to see at a Republican debate, California Governor Gavin Newsom
what the fuck?
will join us. I got to ask him.
It literally, no, it ended. It ended.
$7 a gallon for
I think
gasoline.
after Vivek,
I got
it
a
like
question
ended
or two to
randomly.
ask him. But they do have In-N-Out Burger. Anyway, first, sparks were flying at tonight's debate as
Wait,
all
let me see
7
if I can
candidates
find the last
easily demonstrated
couple.
the ability to run
Let me see if I can
circles
find the
around
last
Joe
couple of
Biden.
moments
We can start
here.
with that point. We're gonna get more Ingram.
The debate ended, but I think we missed the last 5 minutes after Vivek.
No, it wasn't 5 minutes. It ended right after him. I was checking my feed. He just said like the thing about America first, belonging to everybody, and then it ended. So we didn't really miss anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, yeah. It ended at exactly 8. Okay. So, overall, we were talking about Mike Pence and how he's like a psychotic right-wing freak.
Yeah.
That like
really old-fashioned style like type of. You don't see like those guys around anymore.
Yeah, which is odd because it's like they gave him a bit of a layup with the whole like, what would you do about the Latino voters or whatever, right? Like they switched off from the abortion topic, and he was like, "Nah, dog, I'm still gonna talk about abortion." Actually, like, which was insane.
He believes in God, like for real. He like is pushing a national abortion ban. He's not fucking around with it.
Yeah, he's I think it's because he's a convert. Like he's he's a born again. So it's like the scariest motherfuckers.
And he used to be a Democrat. He like volunteered for Jimmy Carter. So
yeah. So he's actually out of his fucking mind. But yeah, as far as the abortion messaging goes, it's the most important issue, as we were talking. They left it to the end when like the least amount of people are watching, by the way, which goes to show you how little, which goes to show you, in my opinion, that Fox News is very well aware that this is like a horrible fucking conversation to have, one that they need to have, but you know, not one that they want to even talk about really. I feel like any state that has a ballot measure is going to get fucking is going to wipe the Republicans across the board. Like they're going to beat them mercilessly.
Yeah, that happened last year. They lost the ballot measures. They lost the ballot measure in Kentucky over abortion. Like it is really deeply popular everywhere. And I think they're trying to, like Arizona, I think is going to have a ballot measure about it. I don't know about other states, but that is a pretty smart move that they're doing there.
Yeah. And as far as messaging goes, like Nikki Haley is like one of the only people who talks about abortion with like some level of like a decent temperament on abortion, at least. Like everyone else is like super wishy-washy. Ron DeSantis even like went on this tangent where he was like, oh, well, you know, Trump, I want to ask Trump why he said pro-life is a bad position or whatever, and then immediately tried to like do the Trump thing. Because I've been watching Trump a lot. I was very interested in seeing how Trump would message around the abortion issue since like the CNN town hall. And his sentiment always is like really wishy-washy, where on the one hand, he fucking talks about how, you know, he wants to take ownership over this Roe v. Wade, obviously the situation, the abortion situation, but also simultaneously he recognized that it's unpopular. So he keeps saying, oh, well, I did this so that we can bring it back to states and that we can have a conversation around abortion, which is really a silly way to try and message around it, because like it's a dead issue anyway. Everybody knows that the Republicans did it and you own it.
Yeah, it's tough. There are just some issues where you don't have a winning side on it until you're like willing to totally reconfigure the way that the party thinks about it. The solution for Republicans is to just like recognize that they can't win on this battleground and they just agree to bring back Roe, because like this is not tenable long term. And when I was listening to a lot of these questions, it kind of made me a little like, because a little longing for like an alternate universe where like you could have like progressive candidates answering these questions, because the right doesn't have any answers to this stuff. They really their only somewhat compelling stuff is like attacking Biden and his record. But like a lot of these questions, maybe it was just a Univision reporter being woke. I felt like you could have like had a really compelling progressive answer to those, and that was like felt a little like disappointing that it wasn't there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I feel like Republicans don't necessarily have to have answers to any of these questions anyway, though. In most cases, like I feel like with Donald Trump, like he's great because he doesn't really talk about this shit that much. Like he has a very good way of getting all the television, like all the television boomers to feel like he's fighting the battles against the elite perverts who are like destroying and causing their grandchildren to not text them back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas these guys do not have that riz at all. Nikki Haley is the strongest contender for like old school Republican politics on the stage. So if that's like your flavor, if that's what you want, if you want like a real old school pre-Bush era, around that same time frame, like Republican Party politics, like that's who you would go for, I guess. But overall, I mean, there's this is a post-Trump Republican Party with who need to address the crimes that they've committed against the American citizens in the form of criminalizing abortion in red states.
Yeah, and all of this stuff that they've done. One thing I've also noticed that I thought was interesting is that all these people do, besides Vivek and DeSantis, all of them predate Trump. Like Christie, Haley, Tim. These are all people who were like rumored to run for president like in 2012. So there's not really any kind of forward-looking perspective here. And part of that is Republicans have just lost so many elections. They don't have any young talent. Like it's like seriously just like people like Vivek that are all of their young people. Yeah, the FedEx thing was insane.
Yeah, that line was like the only time Chris Christie had like a positive moment handed to him by the moderators. Really. Like the whole, we need to track him like